Hey everybody, it's Chris Eads, known online as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. Starting off with a quick movie review. This weekend I went to see Shazam, which I will never not hear in Jim Nabors' voice. So, it was good, but after it ended, I was like, that was good. I liked the beginning, and I liked the end, but the middle kind of bothered me. And at first, I thought it bothered me for one reason, but then my husband was like, well, my problem was this. And I'm like, yes, that's the real problem. Because it's a superhero origin story, so it takes like, a half an hour to even get him into his costume and powers. Thankfully, they come together in Shazam. So that's usually the slow part. But that was actually fine. It was once he got the powers and was like trying to figure out what he could do, and it was all like waka waka comedy. Like I was okay with like learning how to use your powers, but then he goes through a period where he's like not using them to be a superhero. He's just using them, and he's kind of a dick, and it's sort of like, no. And so there's this big stretch of time, and I feel like the movie could have lost a good 15 to 20 minutes off its running time and shaved it down from the 2 hours plus if they had trimmed down that section, because all you needed was a little setup to say he's being a jerk and whatever, and then he realizes, oh, with great power comes great responsibility, and steps up. You could trim that down. We don't need to watch him being a jerk for quite as long as we did. And that was my problem, but then Frank pointed out that, in fact, there's a bigger problem, and that is star Zachary Levi. He hated the costume and the padding and everything, and I thought he looked fine, except for the 2 black hair dye job. Visually, the character looked great. I thought it was fine. The effects are great. The flying, and even the CGI flying, is better than in Captain Marvel. Just FYI. But, he pointed out that the real problem isn't that Zachary Levi is playing it to waka waka comedy. It's that he's not playing it as a grown-up looking version of Billy Batson, because it should be the same person, just in a different body. But the way Zachary Levi plays it is not, like, Shazam does not act like Billy Batson. It's not Billy Batson in a new body, it's like a different character altogether. So, I feel like that's something where the director could have stepped in and told him, no, spend time with this kid off camera and, like, get to know each other so you can, like, play the same character. And that's kind of a problem. It's a little annoying. But overall, it's very entertaining and another step in the right direction for the DC superhero movies. We'll see where they continue to go with it. As for gaming, I've been doing a little reading now that people have had some hands-on experience with No Man's Sky VR, because as you know, I'm stupid excited for it. My dream is coming true. But I was reading about it and I'm like, ugh, everyone who's demoing it, they're demoing it with the Move controllers and, doing things and, whatever, and, teleporting through the game from location to location, and I'm like, ugh, I get it. It's a very standard VR movement control scheme to reduce motion sickness. However, I don't care, because to me, the teleporting and the moving in chunks is pulling me out of the immersion, which is the whole point of VR. So I'm pleased to have also read that you can use the regular controller to play No Man's Sky, which I think is great, because while the Move controllers will make it more immersive to, to aim your tool and do things and whatever, and fly your ship and such, I would rather give up that immersion to maintain the immersion of moving around the world, because hopefully there will be a one-to-one control scheme where I can just basically like play No Man's Sky with smooth movement controls and just looking around like this. That is my fingers crossed hope. Most games I've found do have that. It's not the default setting. You have to go into the setting in order to say, yes, I want to risk motion sickness. Please let me control the game normally. Which I will do. And I also just wish that they would announce a release date. Which I know isn't going to happen until they announce the third part of this new update. But hopefully it'll come at that time. Once they announce the third part, they'll announce a release date. And not, here's the third part, we'll let you know when it's coming a little bit later. Because that would suck. Because I just want my No Man's Sky VR. Thank you. Please. In other VR news, since obviously I'm a huge fan of 3D and VR and all that, Nintendo's getting into the VR action. With the new Nintendo Labo VR kit. Now, I was excited about the previous Labo kits, not the robot one so much, but I tried it out at Nintendo World and I was like, oh, these are kind of neat. And I like jigsaw puzzles and making things, it could be fun. So I just never got around to getting it. I think I put it on my Christmas list, but it's kind of expensive, so it didn't end up getting given to me. So, which I get. This one, the VR kit, I'm getting this one right away. There's actually two versions. There's like the scaled down version that's just the viewer, and then there's the other one that also lets you make a gun and a weird like elephant trunk thing, so that you can, interact with the other Joy-Con like this and like draw in virtual space and stuff and like do things like that. Because otherwise, you're basically just using, you're creating a little viewer, and then you're holding the Switch up like a Viewmaster, like this, and playing the game like this. So it's never going to be as immersive as the PlayStation VR or other VR headsets, because those rest on your head and give you the ability to move your arms around or control, and like it just gives you the freedom of movement. With Nintendo, you're always going to have at least one hand up there, so that's going to be a thing. So that's going to keep you from really feeling too immersed in it. Also, they have announced that they're going to do some free updates to Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that will allow you to play those games in a special VR mode. Now, it's not first-person Legend of Zelda, which would be like insane in VR. You're just playing the game, and you can like look around, and it'll be in 3D, and it'll be cool, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how long I'd be able to play it, though, because you're holding it like this with the controllers, as opposed to other like PlayStation VR where it's resting on your head, and you can hold the controller in your lap or whatever. This is probably going to get like really uncomfortable to do for a lengthy period of time. But that's also probably good, because then they don't want kids playing it for too long because their eyes will bleed. And they're gonna, if they want to do something where you can wear it as a head strap and move the Joy-Cons around like this, they're gonna have to make a special head strap out of plastic, because I don't suppose they're going to want to try to make a cardboard head strap to hold it onto your face, because your Switch will, like, if your head gets sweaty, the cardboard breaks, it'll fall in your lap or on the floor and break your Switch, and that would suck. So pretty sure Nintendo's just trying to avoid that whole thing. But I'm super excited, and pretty sure that my next episode's going to be all about that. We'll see. Other gaming news, still playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I am still enjoying it. However, I do want to complain about a few things here. I like to complain. Whatever. And I've complained already about certain things in this game, but I just wanted to focus a few. I have 3 big complaints about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. First, the sailing. Ugh. Hate sailing. So annoying. I feel about sailing in Assassin's Creed games the same way everyone else seems to feel about sailing in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Which, personally, I didn't mind. I actually enjoyed sailing around in that game for some reason, even though everyone else is like, oh my god, it takes forever to get from point A to point B, and it's so tedious. I was like, no, it's fun. There's things to dive for and enemies to fight. It's fine. But sailing in Assassin's Creed just doesn't work for me, because I'm here to sneak around and stab people to death. not to command a sailing vessel and, you know, destroy other ships and pillage them. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I know they've had it in previous games, because I will never forget going to a Wii U preview event from Nintendo, back when I was still writing for GayGamer.net, and they were like, hey, do you want to try Assassin's Creed on the Wii U? And I thought, sure. And, like, they're like, here you go, it's a sailing combat demo. And I'm like, no! Like, why are you selling Assassin's Creed with a naval combat demo? Like, it should be killing people in a house demo. But, hey, I don't work for Ubisoft, I don't tell them what to do. So, sailing, hate it. And I actually hate it more, like, that's the worst thing, I hate it more than the battlefield combat. Because as I've said before, I prefer assassinating because I'm not so good with the one-on-one combat. A little better now that I've realized that the reason I wasn't able to lock on to characters is because I was pressing the L3 button, and it's actually R3 that locks on. I checked the controls in the options menu so that I could see what was going on, and I was like, oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. That'll do it. But after I did the whole section where you're, like, destroying the Athenian base supplies and everything to weaken their leadership, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'll go take out the leader now. And I had seen the leader earlier in the game when I was in the city and stuff, and then he had a whole bunch of bodyguards, and they took one look at me, and they were like, oh, and they rushed him into a building, and I was like, whatever, I'm doing something else right now, I'll take care of you later after I've weakened your power. And it turns out that you really do weaken them quite a bit, because when I went to track down the leader, he was literally just wandering around outside the city gates. I think he had a weapon, but he sheathed it, and he didn't see me, and I just came up behind him, and zip zip, and he was dead. And that was super easy, and I went, okay, great. Wow, wonderful. But then the next mission was a battlefield scene, where you're just defeating Spartan soldiers and hopefully some captains to try to rout their army and send them packing. And they eventually did retreat. And I didn't die, because thankfully I had just gotten the ability to heal myself with a button press. It's one of the special abilities you can learn. So that was super helpful. Love that ability. It's come in very handy, because I'm still not very good with the one-on-one combat. I can't time my parries exactly, and my dodging doesn't seem to work, but I can heal myself and run away. And then heal myself again, and then come back to fight some more. So the battlefield stuff, not so great. So it's bad enough that, like, when you're seen while trying to assassinate, you have to fight them or run away. But then to have actual sections of gameplay in the game be like, here's a battlefield, fight. And I'm like, that's not Assassin's Creed. The other reason that I don't like it is because everyone seems to be leveling up with me, so I can't seem to level up above the enemies to make the game a little easier. As I said before in a previous episode, I'm playing on normal, and I had the slider set to default for the leveling slider, so that the enemies... I mean, the harder version is everything levels up with you constantly all the time. So I left it on default, which I thought meant the enemies will all stay at the same level that they are at, and you will level up above them. But that didn't seem to be the case, and everyone was leveling up with me, so I lowered it so that enemies could go to 2 levels below me. But as I've been playing it over the past week, everyone is still leveling up with me, even the animals, and it's super annoying. So I'm like, ugh. So I actually set it now down to the enemies can go up to, or down to, 4 levels below my level. And it still didn't seem to be making a damn bit of difference. And I was like, what the hell is up with this game? Like, why would you incorporate a leveling slider if it's not actually going to change anything? But now I'm starting to wonder if it's simply because I was still playing along the main story and doing side quests here and there, because I got to the point where I'm going to Athens, and Athens is gorgeous, and I want to go in, but as I was docking, as I was heading for the dock, the game was like, your level is too low and your ship might have trouble with the pirates in this area because you're too low of a level. And I went, oh, okay. But there weren't any pirates visible, so I just docked and it was fine. And then I'm like, you know what? Instead of going into Athens, because I feel like I should be level like 15 and I'm only 13 heading to 14, I was like, let me jump back to some previous areas and explore some stuff and do some side thingies, maybe kill some cultists and whatever, and level up to 15 before I actually try to go into Athens. Because I think in the quest menu, the Athens quest, I think it says 15 is the recommended level. And when I went back to a previous area, I went to kill a cultist, and when I scouted out the building with my eagle, all of the guards and soldiers, they were all level 9. So I'm like, oh, okay. So things in this earlier area will stay at a lower level, and I can be a higher level, and I can take care of them, and that's fine. I ended up not taking out any guards. I literally was able to just sneak in and just stab her and call it a day and swim away, and I didn't have to kill anybody else. So I wasn't in a bloodthirsty mood. What do you know? So I'm thinking that it might be okay, and it's just because I've been pushing through the story that everything is staying at that same level. And if I go back to previous earlier areas to explore new areas and find new things and defeat other enemies, they seem to be appropriately lower. They stayed at level 9. So it might be okay, although, like it says in the options menu, when you're setting the leveling setting, it warns you that setting the enemies to be too low, you won't get as much experience, which could make later portions of the game more difficult. We'll see what happens with that. I still have the ability to go from normal difficulty to easy difficulty, so if I do reach a point towards the end where it's getting ridiculous and I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it, I can always go and tweak the setting and go back to easy mode, and then maybe that'll help. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still trying to figure it out. If you have advice on the Assassin's Creed Odyssey leveling slider and what's the best setting, let me know. And I will see you back here next time for probably some Nintendo VR action. Fun minigames in VR, woohoo! See you then, bye!